So we have this beautiful sunset tonight. It is the 27th of March, and I figured now would probably be a good time to do a little bulb tour, a March bulb tour. Not everything is bloomed, but a lot of things are. Here's a little bonus. The lilac is about to bloom. If I can get it to focus. Very excited. Here's some bulbs that I planted a little bit later than the other bulbs. I forget exactly when, probably, I don't know, late January. The soil may not be so good here, so they're a little bit more slow growing than the other bulbs, and these don't get as much sun because they're on the north side of the house. Okay, here we have some very pretty tulips and daffodils. We also have a peony amongst mint. Oh no, and that peony is kind of dying. I'll probably dig that out and replant it, but I was actually, it's kind of my fault. I did not plant this nearly deep enough. Like, if you could see, like, all this is supposed to be underground. So this is what happens when you don't plant your peony deep enough. It starts looking like that. This tulip here was like one of the first tulips to bloom, so it's kind of at its end. And aren't these just so beautiful? All right, moving on. These are so pretty. I believe these are double tulips. If I could find the name, I'll put it in. But yeah, this is like my first year of planting bulbs, so I'm really excited about all of them. We have more of these really pretty daffodils. This peony I also planted at the same time as the other two, but this one had more eyes on it, so it's doing a lot better. And I'm actually having very high hopes for this one because I think it has a lot of room to grow up. It gets a decent amount of sun. Here's a little freesia. I'll show more freesias later. This one is one of the newer ones that I planted. It may not bloom this year, but I guess we'll see later on. Okay, so moving on towards this area, there's some peonies in there that still haven't risen. Those were the peonies that were kind of rotted when I took them out of the box, so we'll see what happens with those. Here's a little bit more daffodils and tulips, and there were more daffodils here yesterday, but I cut some off because I was going to a birthday party and I made a little bouquet for the birthday party. Very pretty tulips. And then something I want to mention is that in this pot I did plant things in a method called the, I'm gonna say it wrong, it's like the lasagna method, where you plant daffodils on the bottom, or like the biggest bulb on the bottom, and then tulips followed by a smaller bulb. I forget honestly what I planted up on top. I thought I planted crocuses, but I guess not. So yeah, here we have daffodils and tulips. Now if you look here, there is absolutely nothing blooming inside of this pot because I bought these bulbs like in the summer and they were just laying in the garage, and I think a pest got to them and I didn't plant them until like I don't know, late fall. So what I'm hoping though is that this year they're just kind of gaining energy through their leaves. Like, I think these are daffodils. There's daffodils and tulips in here. The daffodils, we'll just take them out and pot them somewhere else, maybe like way out there, somewhere way out there by those bushes next year. Okay, so here are more peonies. We have 3 peony plants right here on the screen. 1, 2, 3. That one right there is the Carl Rosenfield peony. I'll get a closer look. I got this one probably like 3 years ago at Home Depot, and with this peony, oh, I should probably cover those. I need a Basically with this peony, I always think of it as the Karl Lagerfeld peony, but that's not it. That's the designer of like Chanel and Fendi, Chanel, Fendi, and his own brand. That's not Karl Lagerfeld, that's Karl Rosenfeld, and they have very similar names. Okay. Why are these leaves green and these leaves purple? If somebody could explain that, I'd be very curious to know. Okay, here's another one. I got this and I planted it a lot later than the other peonies. I forget the name of this one, but if I remember, I'll make sure to include it. I also need to add some dirt on top of there. As you can see, looks like a lot of the eyes are coming up. I got this one from Easy to Grow Bulbs. At the same time, I got the freesias. I forget the name. It's like a pink peony. We have another peony right there amongst roses. And then this peony, I don't know exactly how it's doing. It may not be doing so well. It's the sorbet peony that I'm really excited about. I got this one from Costco. I did plant it really late, so that may be part of the reason why it's not coming up. I don't know. I'm really hoping for that one. Just giving it more time. Okay, and then here in this little section, we have a lot of different bulbs. Probably the most interesting ones right now are the daffodils. Here we have another peony. The hyacinths, these were pink hyacinths. They had already bloomed, so I cut them off and put them in a vase. And honestly, they don't really have a long vase life. They were probably in the vase for like a day or two and then they died. Here we have a little tulip. I also planted an aluminum, I'm gonna say that wrong, but one of those bulbs. So we'll see if that one comes up later in the summer. And then here, I am very excited for these. I hope they flower. These are Ranunculus. Now these Ranunculus did get planted pretty late. I wanna say I planted them like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And what I learned after I purchased these is that like here in my zone, you do not need a pre-sprout anything. You could just stick them straight into the ground in the fall. So I kind of just wish instead of doing a whole pre-sprouting process, I just stuck them in the ground pretty much as soon as I got them. But I didn't do that. We'll see if they flower. And speaking of the ranunculus, oh wow, it's a very beautiful sunset. Speaking of ranunculus, I do have more ranunculus. I think these are dying because they got overwatered. These are ranunculus that I pre-sprouted beginning, I think, on January 28th was the day that I pre-sprouted them. They were all originally in here, but I did take them out and like pot them. I could feel that soil's like really moist. So I don't know, is there a way to save ranunculus from dying when they're at this phase, or are they just gonna die? Don't know. This one, and a lot of the others, I left in the pre-sprouting bag for a really long time, which was really my fault. I just didn't have time to get to them. I finally just planted them out here yesterday, which is really bad. Like they were pre-sprouting for such a long time, which I know is so bad, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so I think that's everything in the backyard. Let's go to the front yard. This right here, I really, really love this patch. And this right here is actually the reason why I started buying bulbs. So these bulbs I planted on Thanksgiving morning. Look at that. And finally here on March 27th, we have a beautiful display. These have actually been blooming for like a week now, maybe longer. But when they first open up in the spring and you see that really pretty yellow color, it's very exciting. Somehow it happened that like there was a lot more of these purple hyacinths than pink ones. And like I did not plan that out. I didn't know what color they were gonna be, but somehow the blue ones are here and some of the pink ones are there. We also have this little guy. I forget what this one is called. I think it's like a grape hyacinth. But yeah, here's some more detail, closer up shots. I just love that. I love all the color over here. Okay, so moving on from there, we have more of these types of daffodils. Very pretty in here. I also planted some crocus plants, a lot of purple ones in here. There was another plant in here, but it already faded. It was actually the very first to bloom. I'll put a picture into the video. There's a lot of liatris bulbs planted. Well, not a lot, maybe like 16 total was actually what was in the bag. So we'll see if we get any summer color. But yeah, I'm loving the daffodils, and the best thing about daffodils is that they perennialize and they're gonna come back every year for supposedly the next 50 years. So I just planted them once and they're just gonna keep coming back and back and back. Something I also want to mention is that I always wonder like how much you could prune a rose, and this winter, like maybe a couple of months ago, these two branches were so tall, they were taller than the fence, and I was just like, how deep can I prune these, because these roses have just gotten super tall. I was worried that I had pruned them too short and that these two stumps might have died, but nope, there's life on them. We have a ton of new growth coming on. Okay, and the last thing that I need to show is just my little patch of ranunculus that just got planted. So we'll just walk towards the back for that. Oh wait, that's actually not the last thing. I do have more things here. Okay, so here we have calla lily, peony that I got 3 years ago at Green Acres. It did not flower the last 2 years. It only flowered the very first year that I got it. And I actually don't see any bulbs now, so I'll probably give this some fertilizer and hope for the best. But these here are my freesias. These have been here for the longest time. This one is a very reliable bloomer. It's gonna have like this beautiful yellow color when it blooms here shortly. And honestly, these are honestly the best smelling flowers out there. Like, there's nothing that smells better than a freesia, in my opinion, when it comes to the flower world. And I did plant like a ton more freesias in here, but they don't exactly have flower stems, so maybe next year. Yeah, there's like a ton more in here like that. Those are all freesias, and then these are calla lilies that my grandma planted like 20 plus years ago here. And it's such a beautiful sunset. I love, by the way, the difference in colors here. We have like a bright yellow and a bright blue and more of a deep purple and like a more subtle daffodil. I love that contrast. I did not plan that. Okay, and we're just making our way to the back garden. Here are the ranunculus that I planted probably about a week and a half ago. Actually 2 weeks exactly. I planted these on a Monday night exactly 2 weeks ago. Here's what we have. I'm not going to water them. I'm not going to water any of my plants right now because we're supposed to have 2 days of rain. So yeah, really hoping that these flower. If not, it'll be a good lesson. But yeah.